Oh, hello, and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Well, for those of you who know this channel, I've always loved the Guess Who. And guess what? I found out something about them that I didn't know, which is that in 1970, they were invited to play at the White House at the behest of President Nixon as he was hosting a gala dinner type of thing for Prince Charles, now the man who is Britain's King Charles. And it's a bit of a time warp when you think about it that way. But I started reading about this event, and apparently it was all very friendly. The Guess Who were aware that Richard Nixon wasn't the most popular person among youngsters who listened to rock music at the time, but they thought that it was a unique event because not many bands in those days, particularly not many rock bands, got to play at the White House. So they jumped at the opportunity, and as a Canadian band, they were sort of the bridge between America and the UK, being, culturally somewhere in between, especially in those days, and everyone had a good time. From what I read, and I think this is true, because members of the band have later retold this story, from what I can tell, they were asked not to play the song American Woman, even though the song, contrary to what a lot of people think, it's not a protest song, nothing to do with the war in Vietnam. It was simply an observational song about how, in the minds of the band members, American women and Canadian women behave differently. It's really just, a news report, as some of the best lyrics are. And it just gives me another opportunity to really wow myself, and I suppose by extrapolation, you, the audience, with how many wonderful songs the Guess Who were able to create. And by 1970, the band in their modern form hadn't been around for all that long. Of course, as a band themselves, they were playing for quite a few years, dating back to their sort of traditional rock and roll early 60s roots. But in terms of the songs that really put them on the map, they were relatively fresh faced by 1970, and yet they had so many great songs. Now, one of the things that's unique about the Guess Who is that they could rock hard when they wanted to. An American Woman is an instance of that, but they could also write songs that you could really say are part of the Great American Songbook if you were to extend the parameters in terms of time and somewhat style into an era beyond, let's say, the early 60s, when most people, earlier mid 60s, most people cut off the Great American Songbook. I know, okay, Great Canadian Songbook, let's call it. Don't want to mess a boot with them now. I know, I'm here all day. We've got the Rush tribute band direct from South Park. But anyway, the songs themselves, let's just take These Eyes. These Eyes is a song that you could have imagined, Perry Como or Frank Sinatra singing, with, of course, the arrangements that their audiences would be more familiar with. It is simply one of the best love songs ever written. And if Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman only did that song and nothing else, I would have said put these guys in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. But they had so many great songs. A Wednesday in Your Garden, a Randy Bachman song, absolutely excellent. No Time. What a song that is. Undone. That's jazz rock, really, when you think about it. Could be a Blood, Sweat, and Tears song. Laughing, another great one by both Cummings and Bachman. So many great songs, all within a few short years. And obviously, even when Bachman left the band, they continued to write such great songs when Burton Cummings became the sort of de facto leader of the band. And it is interesting because I've always said that there's a timeless feel to these songs. And if that wasn't the case, an institution as hallowed as at the time it was, the White House wouldn't have had them there. I mean, even though we've seen sort of Bill Clinton bring rock and roll into it, Barack Obama bring hip hop into it, Donald Trump, who was friends with Pavarotti and has a lot of contemporary opera singers, friends with Elton John, and Elton, I don't think, has performed at Trump's White House, but they remain. They say nice things about each other, even though they have different politics. But in 1970, it was still, this was even before I think Elvis came to be the drug czar at the time, in the Nixon administration. So it's an interesting factoid that I didn't know about, and it kind of validates the point that the great songwriting of the Guess Who was universal, even though they were very much the rock band that appealed, melodic rock band that appealed to the youngsters at the time. People of Richard Nixon's generation didn't mind inviting them over for a shindig, and I find that pretty interesting. Let me know what you think, and as always, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.